Hi everyone, thank you for sticking around for the conversation that I am so excited to moderate. My name is Katie Rich, I'm the awards editor at The Angler, and I'm going to welcome some of the people who made this incredible movie possible. First up is the film composer, Franglen. He's also the co-writer of the song Green is One, alongside Mark Ronson. We also have the film star, who you may know better as Franglen, Oona Chaplin. And then, of course, the writer, director, producer of Avatar, James Cameron. Hi, everybody. It's very clear this is a fun group of people just from being backstage, so I don't want to overhype anything, but I feel like this is going to be a fun conversation. We're ready to go. And as I was saying, I don't often get to talk to the music and the acting and the directing and writing and everything all together at once. And so start with you, Jim, obviously, is the...
You see them all together on the screen?
That's entirely true. And so kind of the start is the broad question of how you brought all these guys in with this third Avatar film, with knowing you had the chance to expand this world, to build on what you'd already made. What did you want to make bigger, to make different, and then how were these the collaborators to help make that possible?
I think inherent in your question is the idea that it's incremental. But it's not really incremental. It's really the culmination of a story that started with the first film and then expanded in the second film to be about a family instead of just a love story between two people, across two species. And in the third film, we're really kind of culminating that story. We give them new adversaries like the Rong and the Ash people, but it's the same struggle for the soul of a planet and the soul of the people that live on that planet, which in a sense are us, right? I mean, when you watch an Avatar film, you side with the Na'vi. You don't side with those greedy, horrible humans that are there to rape the place. So it's an opportunity for us to exercise that better part of our natures that says, okay, we're better than that. We're family people. We're people who bond together. We're people who fight for the things that we believe in. And so we see the film and the story through the eyes of the Na'vi, in a sense. Now, obviously, there's some new wrinkles in the story. We say, okay, well, not everybody who happens to be of blue skin is saintly, and not everybody who happens to be of pink or brown skin is evil, because life is not simple, and the film needs to be more complex and more nuanced, and so we've taken it to that level. Each one builds on the previous one, and that affects the art of the music of the film and the acting of the film, every aspect, the design of the film. Our designers are not represented here tonight, but I think of it as all one big collaborative act of creation, and there are a lot of interesting feedback loops. We were talking about that backstage, if you want to drill into that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to open it up to everybody else, the way that collaboration works on this, on any set. Every film is an act of collaboration, always there. But Oona, to give to you, as an actress, you know that you're going to go on set and your performance is shaped by all the people that you work with. But on an Avatar film, that just has to go up to a whole other level of knowing that you're doing one thing on set, and what you are all creating with your imagination together is on a different level of any other set. And stepping into this role, like what Jim was saying about the nuances that you're bringing into it, how much of that do you get before you step on the set? How much do you guys have to be on the same page, knowing all of those things he was just talking about? Or can you just go and say, I'm going to be wrong, here's what I'm going to do with it, and I'm going to see how it goes?
I mean, we had 6 weeks of preparation just for the actors, just to kind of get into the being Na'vi and what it means to be on a different, and living in a different reality. And so we had like so much physical training and so much, we had our own little culture club as well that you guys had as well, and like the backstage kind of creative aspects of it. But then when you get there, it's like this is the thing about being on this film, is that I have never walked on a state that is extremely rudimentary, like very like, it's like theater, it's like a theater rehearsal, it's like a playground, and then have been given the freedom and the time and the resources to really dive deep into these scenes, into the meaning of everything, of every single thing, of like, you know, the little tool that she uses to blow the, you know, cool drugs into the other guy, and then, and also like why like the rope around the chest, why all of the, like the amount of time and conversation that was given by the incredible stewardship and leadership of James Cameron, who is a legend, and yeah, it's true, and also
I give her a 20 before each.
And also the mastery of all the other people that are on set, both technically, like our props master is an incredible genius. Like he is such an amazing person, and his ability to talk about the props and to like really go into it and to collaborate. And then, you know, Deborah Scottley, who designed the outfits, you know, we were in constant conversation. So it is such a beautiful collaboration. It's like, it's extreme, like the artistry, the mastery, and I'm like blown away by every single person, and yeah, I really hope we do it again.
Well, we take nothing for granted. We question everything. You were talking about why. It's like, okay, why? Why am I doing this? Why? And you know, we give you the props and let you set them out around, you know, when you see the scene where Varang is in her yurt and she's talking to Quaritch and she's making these potions and these powders and all that. We let Oona lay all that out and dictate that so that her movement and her flow between those points is something that, because you had done so much movement training and choreography ahead of time. So it's absolutely collaborative on the day. And we should point out that in performance capture, it's not very expensive. You know, the movie's expensive, but most of the expense is in the finish work of getting the photoreal quality to the VFX. But the actual capture work is relatively inexpensive compared to live action. So we're able to take a lot of time and really think it through and use the term drill down. Yeah, be really, really detailed about the performance of what everything means. Because we know this movie's going to go out, it'll be seen by hundreds of millions of people over and over and over again. It's like, that's been the history of the Avatar film. So it's like every image has value. Every moment has value in not only telling the story, but telling some kind of a meta-narrative and that maybe is at a kind of a whole spiritual or subconscious level. And so the images are packed with meaning. Whether that all hits you, you know, when you see it the first time or not, doesn't really matter. It's a kind of a dream reality, and you can unpack it over time. Well, that takes time for us to pack all that into it.
Yeah, and then there's also the aspect where, like, you know, you get the script and there's nothing spare. Like, already so much work has been done. You know, there's not a single line that's like, oh, that's kind of, you know, that's a give or take. Like, everything is there for a reason. Everything is like got so much thought process, and it moves the whole story forward. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, the idea of every detail because that world is so immersive that you think like, oh, well, that's just what the planets look like when they filmed on Pandora, and then you have to think, oh, wait a second, it doesn't exist. And then Simon, we were talking backstage about the idea that, you know, your work as a composer is the music you hear in the background, but also the instruments that you're seeing played on screen, and inventing instruments to be played by these Navi characters, which, again, I think, oh, that's just the instruments that they have there. So how does that idea, that attention to detail, that world building fit into the work that you do on this?
So we have on the wind trainers, we saw them having a jig on one of the galleons. So they're 10 feet tall. They have 3 fingers and a thumb. They definitely have a different physiology, but they also have to play something. And because this is Avatar, we don't just make stuff up. It has to be actually played by people in performance capture. This isn't animation. So the first thing is I have to design instruments for 10 feet tall, 4-fingered Pandorans. And so I would sketch them out, and then I would hand them over to Dylan Cole and our wonderful art department, who would then make these beautiful 3D images of them, because we need something in the actual film. But then we have to go to the next step, which is to have Brad Elliott, our fabulous prop master, 3D print them. So these now are physical instruments that can be played on set by our performance musicians and drummers and so on. And so there are 3D instruments that we've made. And then the last set is I use them in the score, of course. I've been hoping, they're 7 years old now, they're a little fragile, but they did play and they're very, very beautiful. And I'm very proud of the fact that we go that far because we define cultures. So the idea is that Jim tasked me and Deb Scott, the costume designer, and Dylan Cole and Brad. We had what we call Culture Club, which was the way of defining the whole culture for instance, the Ash or the Meg Hyena. I looked at the Ash and I went back to my youth as a punk, a bad punk. I was a pretender punk. But there was a thing when I used to hang out with real punks, that they were the people who were putting their safety pin through the cheek. But they felt that the world had turned its back on them. There was this nihilism. I always felt that the Ash required that sense musically. I then also took an approach, which is most of the time through Avatar, it's a thematic score. The one exception is the Ash, where there is no real theme, there's a feeling. It's about giving this sense of frenzy and this sense of desolation in the music. And I think that's part of what we're doing. We're trying to define whole cultures and feel as well, which I think is something that is a step that Jim requires of these films.
Unlike most films where the composer comes on fairly late in the process, Simon's in from the beginning, and he's designing the music, the chant, the ceremony, the songs, that which is sung on camera and performed on camera, dance and so on. So even down to the Ash sort of sacrifice dance ceremony, he's creating all that ahead of time, and then and sort of rippling back into that certain themes and melodies that are then going to manifest in the score. So it's very comprehensive from end to end.
Yeah, I mean, there was, for instance, you hear Zoe sing the song chord, which you saw on screen, but there was also another thing, which was a morning ceremony, which we had a thing called the Family Circle. That theme then became the main theme of the film. As it happens, we had to cut it out. There just wasn't the time to have it. But that theme was something that I wrote in early 2018 and then became part of the score. And I think the joy for me is also Oona used to send me source material from the Amazonian jungle. I would get this email from Oona, hey, listen to this, and so on. And it would be really exciting, that idea of that collaborations for a composer to be that early on in the process is fabulous. And I think it gives, I was trying to get this score to have a tactile quality to it. There's an awful lot of music, and there is, as you may have seen, like 3 hours of music in the film. We just
have 7 minutes without music.
Something like that. I appreciate the 7 minute stuff. And there's, like for the other thing, just because we're in Los Angeles, this was a score that was recorded entirely in Los Angeles with Los Angeles musicians and Los Angeles singers. And I hope you may have noticed that we actually credited all 215 people who were involved in the score, which I think is
So Mark, this entire world has been built, and then your song has to bring everybody out of it. And you and Simon worked together on this song, obviously closing credit songs of it, Long History in Hollywood and James Cameron movies. How do you take all this information that we've just been talking about and say, all right, I need a song that can stand on its own, but also fit in with this world that is so detailed?
I mean, it is crazy because, obviously we're coming into it. This movie comes from your brain. You've been scoring all 3 of these. We come in August? And
August of 2025, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I remember when I saw the first Avatar, the fucking Winter Theater in Battery Park, New York. Like, I remember what the seat felt like. Avatar 2, I went to see the night that it came out, the Thursday night. Like, to come into this world and then suddenly to have this, not responsibility, like, we're gonna ruin your film. We know that's not gonna happen, but write this song, this privilege. So we went to see the film, and Andrew, my partner, who can't be here, and there was so much poetry in the dialogue in the film that we were just writing down lines as it was coming, like, you know, you are my home, that you hear in the song, that's straight from the film, and the arrows through the air. And there are already so many themes that were resonating with me. I could already feel the song brewing, or at least the sentiment. And obviously Andrew and Miley are going to bring their sentiment to it. You get all your shit in the blender. But I couldn't shake the scene of the opening scene of Netiem, and when he's flying with Loak, and we've all lost people, and they come to us in our dreams, and sometimes they're really bizarre, and sometimes they're so lucid. In that scene, when the moment, I don't know the exact line, he says, "Tell me, how did I die?" Like, I've had dreams like that, and I couldn't. That idea of it was just something that just resonated. I think we have to bring the energy of that to the song. And then Simon had this incredible song title. We'd gone over to his house to talk about what the song could be, and he said, well, what about this title? I had this title I think would be great, We Dream as One. And that was just so brilliant, because it's like what the movie is. The movie is this umbrella for all these beautiful themes of ecology and loss and grief and connection. So now we have this umbrella title that Miley can bring her understanding of what these themes are, and her loss and grief and love that she's experienced, and Andrew as well, because now we're all under this umbrella to bring this song. So I don't remember the question.
You gave a lot in that answer, but I was thinking about it as an exit from the film. It's like if you're
Yes.
in it, but you're sending the audience out. And I am curious how you know
That, okay, so that is important, because you want it to be emotional and heavy and resounding kind of film, but you also don't want people to leave on a bummer. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be a big song, but it also has to be uplifting, and it has to be genuine. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking, like, how do we elongate the emotion of this film and just send everybody out on an incredible feeling? And the movie is so humane. It's about humanity, so to capture that.
I love the title. You know, I love this idea that we dream as one, because to me it kind of sums up the entire oeuvre of the Avatar films. They go out, they make 3/4 of their revenue internationally. So that means in other language groups, in other religions, in other geopolitical systems. People that are culturally and politically and linguistically completely different from us, and yet we're all dreaming as one around the globe, and we're all sitting in a movie theater seeing an Avatar movie, in this kind of consensus, lucid, awake dream state. And I think it speaks to our common humanity. I mean, we try to do that with the film. We try to make the film, we use all the technology at our disposal, and we could talk about that for hours, but that's not the point. The point is, it's to create a unique experience in a movie theater that doesn't look and feel like anything else that's out there. And so it becomes this kind of consensus, you know, dream reality around the world that people share it. Now, a lot of people reject that. You know, a lot of people don't like Avatar movies. They don't, you know, there's a kind of a snark reaction as well. But the thing I think about Avatar movies that is a bit unique in the marketplace is that they wear their heart on their sleeve. They are about empathy. They're about emotion. They're about our shared humanity, and people connect with that around the world. And I think it's the secret sauce. And it's a thing that we strive for, you know, as writers, as filmmakers, as actors, all of us working on the film. We know what we're doing. We know what we're here to do. We know what the brief is, so to speak. And we work toward that. And I'm not talking about a handful of people here on the stage today. I'm talking about 3,000 people working for 4 years to create what you just experienced. Is it for everybody? No, of course not, but we don't have to be for everybody. There's 8 billion people on the planet. We only need to get about 3% of them. And we're
I'd also like to say something else, because I remember being in northern China somewhere, and the one thing that they had all seen Avatar, and I remember getting a phone call from my manager saying that he was trekking in northern India when Avatar 1 came out. He'd just seen it projected onto a sheet. And I think the thing about these films is this is a film for the cinema. And that the fact that we're all here in the movie theatre, it's about a shared experience. And for all of the ideas of us sitting in front of a television, I hope there's still room for a cinematic epic in this world.
I think you can tell this movie seems to be resonating enough to know that there's a cinematic epic out there. I mean, Oona, you're doing this for the first time. You know, you're stepping into this world, and Mark was talking about seeing the previous films, seeing the reaction to it, seeing the way that it envelops people, knowing that you were on the inside of it. Is it, I don't know, how is it being on the other side? Is it surprising? Is it what you thought the reaction would be like?
I mean, it's so big. I don't know, man. I just saw a huge picture of Garang out on Sunset.
Driving on Sunset, right?
I was like, dang, she's big.
I saw that and I said, man, I hope Buddha's driving the same route.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I remember seeing Avatar, of course, for the first time, and what it provided for me, as well as all the beautiful story and the epic that it is like somehow I got a more visceral experience of connecting to nature than I had ever had before, and it was not nature or real, you know, but I had that visceral experience. I felt like I had a guru, and I took that feeling and I took it out with me for a walk, you know, and I that feeling stayed with me. It's like, oh my God, like that's what it is. That's what it feels like. You know? And I feel like there's something innate within us that kind of remembers that, you know, that we all know that feels good, and it's true, and it feels true to us. And so for me to just like from then to think that I'd be sitting here right now next to these guys, I'm just like, I don't even know. But I'm very, very, very grateful. I feel very, very blessed, and especially to feel like not only is it one of the best films that I've ever seen, this one, as well as the first and the second, but it's dear to my heart, and I really care about it, but also that the people involved in this film are just incredible. Like, not just masters of their craft, you know, I mean, Sigourney Weaver, you know, Jim Cameron, Slang, it's like, you know, all these guys are just masters, you know, Mark Ronson, my goodness. You know, wow. But also really good people. And there's like a real feeling of actually creating something that everybody really cares about, and being able to bring brilliant minds together, but also bring brilliant hearts together. And there's something curious about it. There's also like a bunch of people on the Avatar family have stayed married for a really long time. There's a bunch of like long-lasting relationships. So people understand the value of commitment, understand the value of like seeing things through beyond the challenging times. Like there's these really deep, because it's a really fun film, it's a really fun ride, but there's also these really deep themes that are all very heartfelt and cared for by the people that are custodians of this story. So it's awesome. I love it, and I really want to do it again.
Yeah, you said that twice that you want to do it again. You want to tell us if we're going to be getting to do it again? Any news to share here?
You want the scoop here?
Yeah, come on. Our closest friends here.
Yeah, Susie.
I haven't decided yet.
Can I just say one more thing though about the final song? Because it's like the first time I heard it was with my daughter, and she's 2.5, and she has very good taste in music. She only, like, we don't do any of the crap. We have good music in our home, and she was like, she like grabbed the speaker, she was holding with both hands, she was like swaying her body like this, and I was like, okay, she likes it, it's a good song. But what it feels like to me is that that song speaks to integrated grief, like the kind of grief that you've integrated into your life, not like try to like, sidestep or bypass, but also not something that's taken over, something really integrated. So I just want to say that about the song because it's really beautiful.
I just remember that I was like, oh, I have a daughter about that age, and I just remember my daughter was born the day that Avatar 2 came out. December 17th, because I remember going to see the midnight showing Thursday, and then the next day she was born. That was the last day I ever could just go to a movie by myself. But I will say, and then when you were saying how you were responding to all the emotions and themes in it, actually when we were working on the song, because we were all so moved, and I'm so terrified I'm going to mispronounce the name of this animal in front of James Cameron, but is it the tulkun, the whales? Oh, the whales, okay. We were like, we have to get the whales in this song somehow. Like, we were all just so moved by them. So we actually made a synthesizer out of whale noises that we took. So the chords in the chorus, there's a pad under it that's actually whale noises. It's like playing a keyboard. But yes, the shared grief thing is that's a nice thing.
I did mix it out into the cinema when we did the surround mix for the film.
Right.
It's out there.
Miley Cyrus isn't here, but we talked about her as a collaborator on this song, and I was listening to her voice in the song and thinking about how important voices are in the score, in a Thierry song that we were talking about earlier, and obviously Miley's voice is so distinctive, it's her the minute you hear it, but why was her voice kind of the voice to add in along with the rest of the soundscape of this? What do you guys as the songwriters feel like it connects to with the rest of the vocals of the movie?
I think that was your bond with Miley that you brought Miley in.
Miley and I met at D23 last year when we were both being inducted as Disney legends. So I called her up and said, hey, we're legends-in-law. Let's work together. That was my pitch. All the best pitches are short. But no, I think we all respond to Miley's depth and her. It's almost there's an emotional ferocity to her. It's just it's so committed, and obviously her voice is unique. And we wanted somebody who was kind of a female badass to sing the song. It seemed to fit the movie. There's a lot of female energy in the film. We have a woman who goes into battle in final term pregnancy. We got some warrior mama energy in this movie, and Miley kind of suggests that to me. And then of course I didn't know her, hadn't worked with her before, found her to be a tremendous collaborator, very thoughtful, and she brought her own sense of kind of the shakenness of having been through a deep loss, of having lost her house in the Woolsey fire. And it's not lost on us that we're doing this movie or bringing this movie out that was written 10 years ago, but coming out at a time when LA had just been through this trauma. Everybody that we knew in the film industry had been impacted by it. So many of my friends had lost everything, physical and material, at a time, when we're doing a film about loss and people coming together to get each other through a loss, and also seeing the negative side of loss that's not dealt with emotionally, like Oona's people Harong's people, who are impacted by trauma, the loss of their homeland, the loss of everything they understood, and coming out of that dark and down-twisted and aggressive. And so you see both sides of it. You don't want to see Neytiri go down that path of hatred, and we yearn for her to heal herself, and then when she's able to do that, that's a major uplifting moment in the film, we think anyway, or at least we hoped we designed it that way. And so, we're dealing we're dealing with loss on the movie as well. My producing partner of 33 years, John Lando, died in June of 24. He wasn't able to see it through to the end on his very last film. And so, you know, it just seems so important to all of us to get it right, to deal with that universal human experience. None of us gets out of this life alive, and none of us get through this life without going through loss. And ideally, if we learn how to process it, it brings us together in the aftermath of that. It makes us stronger, it makes us more connected. That's what this movie's about. It's not like a big action. Yeah, we do action, sure, we know how to do action. I've done action for 40 years. You know, been there, got the t-shirt, know how to do it, guys. The challenge in this movie was the emotion, that human core that connects us all. And that's where the music, obviously that's where the acting is so important. That's what connects us. That's where it all starts. And then that's where the music comes in.
Yeah,
That's my throw to you, Simon.
I mean, I think that the thing I'm very lucky about is that Jim cares about music, and hopefully that shows in the score. But there were certain scenes, like for instance, the sacrifice, the scene with Jake and Spider, where the score had to build that tension, but it couldn't. If you play it too hard, it just becomes overwrought. And it was about building things, and then it's the last 5 seconds where you think the knife is going to go in. You are absolutely certain that's going to happen. And then there's that tension and release that's important. And I think music has this heartbeat quality. One of the things that because I have a rhythmic background in what I do, there's always a rhythm. I'm attempting to try and get your head bob in a lot of the action scenes to try and building things. And for instance, in this film, we have basically a 1-hour action sequence, the last third of the film. And this is a case of gradually building tempos. So we start maybe at 90 beats a minute, then really tension, then release, then build at 100, build and tension, release. And I'm sort of designing the score, designing those cues so that you're building that tension, and hopefully, there's a weird thing that happens in cinemas where people's heart rates actually synchronize. And that idea is that we're using those tempos and keys and the themes. One of the things you may have noticed is that there's a lot of theme usage in the score. Part of that is to help you also with things like action sequences, where I can help you work out what you're actually meant to be feeling about whom you're meant to feel. And I think that's where Jim is really collaborative. The way that you and I work together on the score, there's always been this one-on-one process, and I really value that. It's fabulous to do.
It works really well. I mean, I'm one of the picture editors. We have 3 picture editors. We actually added a 4th. We upgraded one of our assistants to editor toward the end, but primarily it was 3 picture editors working over a multi-year period. And I've got my hands in the cutting, design all the shots, and then go into the picture cutting. And when I can't figure out what the music is supposed to be doing, and this is before we even get to our part of the process, but when I'm just trying to find a temp track, if I can't figure out what the music is doing, then I don't know how to cut the picture. It's like, what's the scene trying to be? To me, the post-production on a movie is about trying to figure out what the movie is telling me it wants to be. I think we have this kind of a tour theory that, it all kind of comes fully formed from the forehead of Zeus. It's the Hitchcock myth, right? Basically, that it's all storyboarded and carefully crafted before the actors even walk on the set. It is absolutely not that. It's wild, it's woolly, it's snaky, it's slippery, it's slimy, it fights back, and the actors bring their own whole swerve to it. And if you're smart as a director, I think you get out of the way sometimes, and you let the magic unfold, and then you go, oh, that was great, and then you kind of take it off to your laboratory where you can preserve it and protect it and all that sort of thing through in this case, the VFX process, where we take what was created here and we preserve it through the VFX to these final characters. And I like to say that it's really just CG makeup, it's digital makeup. We're not trying to synthesize something, we're not using generative AI, we're not trying to manipulate the actor's performance. We spend a lot of our energy preserving it, because that's where the humanity is. That's the thing that neurobiologically we have a mirror neuron. When we see somebody in an emotional state in front of us, especially writ large on a movie screen, we start to resonate with that emotional state and we feel it. Well, if we're not preserving the beauty or the earthiness or the primalness or the heartbreak or whatever it is that the actors have done, then we're wasting our time, right? And I don't like to waste my time, and I don't like to waste money. So it's all about taking that and putting it up on the screen and preserving that emotion.
And I think I know that there was the first time I saw, there's Oona sees a gun. And I always remember, because it was one of the easiest cues for me to write, when it was, I'm just a girl standing in front of a gun saying, will you love me? and you see her, there's a point when she sees it. And when I happen to have been lucky enough to be...
It's like a romance.
Yeah. This volume, I've been in the volume when that scene was shot, and to watch Oona original performance, it was, it was visceral seeing the original live performance, and then to see it on set, to see it as rendered, it was exactly what I'd seen of you live on set. And I think that's what people sometimes say with animation. No, it isn't. This is absolutely acting in its purest form. And for me, it's just fabulous. I just have to respond to that. But watching Oona and watching Slang and Sig and the actors actually bring of themselves and then see it brought into life with the computer and generation, it's quite an astonishing thing. I think people presume that somehow this is all being made up later. It isn't. This is the real thing.
When Simon says Slang, he means Stephen Lang, who plays Forge. We've just been calling him Slang for so long.
It's hard to call him Steve or Steven.
I think we are out of time. I think I speak for everyone in this room that what you were all able to accomplish and the magic that you captured and preserved and made possible is pretty astonishing. So thank you all for being here.